you, Matt. So this is the first screen you are gonna see when you try to run our solution. Uh, the SMB Fraud currently is in the version 105, and it's not built yet to work with third-party MFA tools. So we put here a warning message to avoid the use of the MFA options with if you got a third-party tool. So it's just trying to avoid to fall into conflicts of different tools, controlling the connection to your tenant. Okay, we proceed, and then the solution is going to check the status of your tenant. First section is going to tell you the if security defaults is enabled or not. Security defaults, as Matt told us, it's controlling the MFA for all users and also blocking the legacy authentication method for any kind of connection. That's the minimum security recommended by Microsoft, but it's not the best one, especially if we think that in a lot of environments we can have all the devices like printers or maybe all smartphones that uses all apps that doesn't have the capability to use modern authentication. Okay, next section is the cost management module. Cost management allows us to create budgets and control those budgets. And the last one is the Azure Active Directory primary license status. In other words, if you got the primary license P1 or P2 or not, or it's a free. And depending of that status, the security defaults, the cost management, and the type of license, some of the options on the solution going to be available or not. If we don't have a premium license, conditional access cannot be triggered on. And some of the options on authentication methods also cannot be deployed. If you have security defaults enabled, then conditional access are not enabled, but you can turn off or turn on depending of the status of your security defaults by clicking on the button here. Okay, so let's proceed. The first section is the location. We need to create a resource group. This resource group is going to be created empty, so nothing is being created there. Only some tags to control the version of the SMB fraud you got now, because you know that's a security solution. That means that it's totally alive, it's in progress, and we are adding features and new options in 1 month, 2 months, more or less. So it's continuously improving. So let's create now a resource group. Okay, I'm going to use Central US, SMB demo. Okay, and let's jump to the first section. Okay, first section is the budget. Budget allows us, if we got the cost management module enabled, allows us to create a budget to control the maximum amount of money for 1 month with 2 different thresholds. One threshold is required, the second one is optional, but we can say to the solution in which amount of money we want to receive a notification. For example, I want to create a budget called budget demo and an amount that should be at least $100, euros. The currency will depend of your regional settings. So I'm gonna put here 5,000. Okay. The first threshold gonna be at 2,500. So when the amount reaches this value, I'm going to receive an email and all the people that I'm going to set here about this value. So just to pay attention and keep in mind that your value already is this one. If you need to take some actions, you need to check if everything is okay or we are having an unexpected expense, maybe we need to down some resources. Okay, So the second budget could be 99%. Of course, the solution is going to check if you are putting a value that is not available. It's going to tell you that to correct that value. And I'm going to create two different emails for receive those alerts. So I'm going to add myself. Okay. And I'm going to add also Matt here. There is no need to use the same domain. You can set any kind of emails. The solution is going to check just that the email you are trying to set is not duplicated and it's a valid email. Okay, so those are the budgets. Now I'm gonna let me tell something really quick about the update that we are gonna release on 3 weeks, more or less, that we are gonna give you the option to query your 365 environment and select directly the emails of your environment that you want to add. Okay, next section, conditional access. As we got the security defaults disabled, conditional access is available to deploy. And first of all, we need to notice that all the conditional access are set in audit mode. Why? Because it's really easy to make a mistake, to maybe a good example should be enable the block of the legacy authentication protocol. And if you don't know that, for example, you got a bunch of printers in your company that are connecting directly with Azure, you will find that you cannot print anything from Azure. So the best way to create these conditional access are in audit mode and give a period of 24 hours, 48 hours, working just in audit mode, and then you can go to the overview tab of conditional access under Azure AD security and check if all your devices are compliant or not with that policy. If not, then it's time to take some actions. A good example should be, imagine that you got users that got old smartphones that are using a change active sync that cannot be set as using the modern authentication protocol. Then you will need to create an exception for that users. Or you got computers that are using the old Outlook 2010, if I'm not wrong, that it's also incompatible with the modern legacy, with the modern protocol. So another exception here. That's why we are creating all the conditional access in audit mode. And conditional access are two different types, users and device. In users, we got the geo restriction that allows you to create a group of trusted locations to allow users to connect. For example, my company is based in United Kingdom. So I'm gonna add my company as a trusted location. And I know that some people usually travels to Argentina. So I can add also this location as a trusted location. If a user is trying to connect outside of Argentina or United Kingdom, gonna receive a message saying that his credentials are valid. However, the policy of the company doesn't allow to connect from the current location. Next option will be the MFA required for all users. No secret here, is the same option like the security defaults. MFA for all users, no exceptions. MFA required for admins. This gonna allows us to create an MFA policy for all the admins on the tenant, not just the global admin, security admin, user admin, tenant Teams admin, SharePoint admin, any kind of admin will have the MFA enforced. MFA required for Azure management. Any channel to create, to manage, to delete, to edit any type of resource in Azure, it's gonna require MFA. not just connect to the Azure portal. Using the Azure CLI, using an API call, using PowerShell, any kind of connection will require MFA, only for Azure management. Risky login restriction. Risky login, it's a feature from Microsoft that it requires a P2 license, however, can be enabled with P1, and it's the capability to tag and take some actions depending of the tag of that user. And the tag is depending of the behavior of the user. A good example should be, there are 3 different levels: medium, low, medium, and critical. And depending of the behavior of the user, a good example should be a connection, an unexpected connection from a user. Imagine that you are connecting to your Azure resources from Barcelona, and in less of 2 hours, you are trying to connect from Tokyo. This is a really suspicious connection. So the system is going to tag your user as a critical, and if you got also a P2 license, it's going to take some action from you. The first one is going to lock down this account. It's going to revoke all the privilege in Azure. It's going to send an alert to the administrators, and it's going to, I'm missing one, it's going to mark all the resources of the user as compromised. Then the administrator should connect to the portal, check the user, and tag as compromised or remove the alert. Then we are going to the device-based rules. Legacy authentication. No more secret here, just blocking the legacy out method. That could affect devices, also users that could use old software to connect to 365, for example, is the most common issue, could affect them. Next one is required compliant or hybrid Azure AD joint device for admins. If you are an admin, you must use a computer that is domain joined to connect to Azure. If not, the connection cannot be done. Required compliant or hybrid Azure joined device or MFA for users. The same option, but it gives you an alternative that is use MFA for all the users. If you don't have the domain joined computer, but you have MFA, you are able to connect. Those are the conditional access policies. We are working on more conditional access to add on the next version, special focus in devices. We want to put some focus in Linux devices and macOS devices. And next section is going to be the authentication method. Authentication method, it's how we connect to Azure. So it's everything regarding the password and some functionalities regarding password, like the Microsoft Authenticator and passwordless functions. So the first of all is the password expiration. Password expiration is enabled by default in Microsoft, but Microsoft recommends to turn off the expiration. Why? If you are asking a user to change his password every 90 days, every 2 months, the password gonna change from something complex to my password on February 123, my password on March 123. So that's why we recommend to set off the password expiration and ask the user to put a really good and complex password. Smart Lockout. Smart Lockout gonna require a P1 license. That's one of the options that requires a P1 or P2. And it's basically tell to the tenant how many attempts we want to allow before lock down an account. So by default are 10 and 10 attempts in 2 minutes, and we can say no. Sorry, I want to allow only 2 failed attempts, and the account will be locked out for 5 minutes. No more secrets here. Next section gonna be password protection for Windows Server Active Directory. In other words, took all that password policies from Azure and implement into your on-premise environment. Two things to take account here. The first one is that if we check on the information, we will see a link because this policy requires an agent to be installed on your computers, on your servers. The other one is that this policy could be deployed in audit mode or enforce mode. Audit mode, you will receive notifications in Azure that X computer is not compliant with your, or X user is not compliant with your password policy. If you set enforce, same behavior of Azure gonna be applied to the on-premise environment. Next section, Microsoft Authenticator. It's how we want to manage the Microsoft Authenticator tool. Recently, we have seen how the one kind of attack has increased a lot, which is called the MFA fatigue. Basically, MFA fatigue is spam of notifications about approve a connection with your account. You could receive this notification at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. You are really asleep and you say, okay, just leave me sleep and click on OK. Then you are approving a connection to your tenant. How we can prevent that? By enabling that option, we can set 3 different types of extended features for the Microsoft Authenticator. The first one is the number matching. The number that is shown on your Microsoft Authenticator tool should be put on the login screen of of Azure. Second one is the application name. It's going to be shown in your Authenticator tool. So if you are trying to connect from Outlook, it's gonna show you a message saying that Microsoft Outlook is trying to connect to your account. You want to approve or not? And the last one is the geographic location. It's gonna give you extra information about where is that connection trying to connect. So you are trying to connect from Brazil. You want to apply that? No, I'm in Florida. Those are extra functionalities for the Microsoft Authenticator, and it's not attached to a P1 or P2 license. That could be turned on even if you got a free account. The last option is the passwordless function. It's passwordless function is the option that give Microsoft. It's the let's say it's the answer to the kind of issues we usually got with passwords. So by enabling the FIDO2 security key, you can say to the users that you are gonna give them the opportunity to create authentication tokens for his applications or devices. Instead of request a password, you can give to your users the option to enable the passwordless function. And in order to allow them to use it and do it by himself, instead of take an admin and go and configure each device of each user, you can set these 2 options to yes. That's gonna allow the user to configure his own environment directly from his Microsoft login page. With all his details, he will be able to manage which devices are connected with the passwordless function, revoke permissions, add new devices. And the last section gonna be the Azure policies that are not attached to a premium license. You got a free license, those options are available. The first one is restrict of test queue. As Matt told us, we can say which resources we want to control for the VMs. So 2 months ago, if I'm not wrong, Microsoft said that they are creating a new policy in Azure to prevent the crypto mining. However, as we know, TFs are always 2-3 steps behind. That means that probably they will modify the signature of the software that they are using to crypto mine to bypass these kind of protections. That's why you can deploy with that solution. You can say, I'm going to deploy the limitation of types of CPU I want to have available to deploy a VM. In case of the CPU, the families that now are being controlled are the F family and the H family. GPU. Same idea for GPU, but with the NC, ND, and NV family of VMs. And the last one is focused in high performance disk, which is the LS family. If you turn on these options, a new policy will be created in your Azure tenant that's gonna prevent a VM to be created using one of these types of SKUs. Next section is the resource creation. We can say, okay, I'm a company based in Germany, so I'm using just one region, which is the North Germany region. I don't want to allow any creation outside this region. And when we talk about any creation, we talk about any type of creation, not just VMs. Our resource group, VNet, any type of resource will be only be able to be created in this region. Security, 2 options focus on security. The first one is enforce the HTTPS on web apps. So by selecting this one, you are gonna restrict the use of HTTP on web apps. And the second one is the option to deploy the anti-malware extension for Windows Server. This one is just in audit mode because it requires some remediation. This remediation is the installation of an agent on the VMs that doesn't have this extension. On the next version, we are going to deploy a managed entity that will allow you to deploy automatically this extension. But for now, this step should be done manually. So just download the extension and set here. But as soon as you deploy that policy, you will be receiving alerts that X machines are not compliant with the anti-malware extension policy. Something more to tell here is that keep in mind that all these Azure policies requires more or less between 20 and 30 minutes to start working, and only will be applied with new resources. If you already have machines that are running an F family CPU, no problem. There is no risk because the policy will only apply on future objects. And that's all from my side. If you got any question, I will be happy to answer.